Everyone says to start a side hustle, but what if the fastest way to make money is actually just getting promoted? So I've been a software engineer for the last 4 years, and that's the exact crossroads that I've hit. So for the last year or two, I've had this internal conflict where I've been debating whether to apply for a more senior position or actually spend my time pursuing a side hustle. So to give some context, within the tech industry, it's sort of the 2 to 3 year mark where people tend to apply for more senior positions, and with that, quite a big salary bump, anywhere from 50% to 2x what you're currently earning. And that brings us to the topic of today's video, whether it's better to apply for a more senior position or to take a gamble and start your own side hustle. So after roughly a year of going back and forth between the two, let me share what has simplified the thought process in my mind. So it's largely come down to 4 pillars. So the first one is your income potential, the second one is your income stability, the third one is risk, and the fourth one is your time investment. So if we start with income potential, of course with the side hustle, there is no cap to what you can make. Depending on the type of business you're building, you can get anywhere from 10 customers to 1 million and the sky's the limit. So there isn't really a cap. Whereas with a more senior role, of course, there is a cap. You can get share options and things like bonuses, but at the end of the day, your salary plus all these extra bonuses is the cap on what you're making. More to the point is that you are essentially trading your time for money. Because at the end of the day, if you break down the number of hours that you're working and the capped salary that you earn, you are trading that amount of time for that salary. Whereas with the side hustle, that concept doesn't really apply. If you build a huge business, you might be making millions every month, every year, and that just keeps growing. And so you're getting paid more so for the value that you're adding to the marketplace. The second thing is income stability. So with a side hustle, of course, you don't have really this concept of income stability. At the start, usually you don't get paid at all. Whereas with a more senior role, of course, it's pretty stable, relatively speaking. Sure, you can get fired, but that's something slightly different. So next up is the risk. Being employed by a company, your risk isn't as high. Again, sure, you can get fired, but relative to a side hustle where you might potentially be putting money in, the risk isn't really there. The risk really is only that you might get fired one day. So you can start a lot of side hustles like a YouTube channel, like dropshipping and a bunch of other side hustles where you don't actually have to put initial capital in. You are gonna need to put a lot of your time in, and that's weekends, evenings, all your spare time essentially outside of work. So while it's not costing you anything in terms of money, it is costing you perhaps your most valuable asset, which is your time. You are spending a lot of time on this side hustle, and there is a good chance that it won't turn into anything. So finally, let's consider the time investment. So with applying for a more senior position, there isn't really a time investment. Sure, you might spend some time getting ready for the interviews and stuff like that. Whereas with the side hustle, the time investment is pretty substantial. It will take months or even years without really seeing any monetary results. The majority of side hustles unfortunately do fail. So it's a pretty big risk and a pretty big gamble. So I think the balance between the two, using one in some ways to build the other, is a very good move. So over the last year or two, while debating whether to go for the side hustle or deciding to apply for a more senior position, perhaps one of the most important questions I asked myself is, why pursue the side hustle? For most people, the answer will be money. In some cases, money to buy freedom. So if the reason that you're starting a side hustle is money, and it's only money, then the next question to ask is, what happens if the side hustle does succeed and you make millions? What's next? What does it mean? Sure, you can quit your job, but then what do you do with your time? So you buy the supercar, the house, and I don't think a lot of people ask themselves that question, including myself. And it's not until recently that I really sat down to spend the time to think, what's next? What do I do with my time? What do I do with my life? And that isn't just a philosophical question. It gives you a lot of clarity in terms of why you're starting a side hustle and also whether it's the right thing to start a side hustle. And so what I'm alluding at is you should start this side hustle with the right motivation. You should start it for a good reason. If you're passionate about something or you want to learn a new skill, and it shouldn't primarily be money driven, because if it is money driven and you do, let's say, succeed, very often you won't know what to do with your time, you won't know what to do with your life. And it goes back to the question on whether or not starting a side hustle is actually the right thing for you. Or if you are fulfilled in what you're doing at the moment at your workplace, you're making a decent living, you have reasonable hours, a reasonable work-life balance, why start this side hustle in the first place? That's a very, very important question to ask. And it's one I haven't asked myself until the last few months. By the way, if you do want to understand why starting a side hustle purely because of money isn't the right move and will likely end in failure, I've put together this video that will help you see why. The reason I'm starting the side hustle or this YouTube channel is I do enjoy speaking about topics on self-development, on business, on finance, and I do believe that having more awareness of certain things will help to shape people's life in a more meaningful and positive direction. And so that's what I enjoy doing. I'm still practicing speaking to a camera, being sort of the third or fourth video. I'm still getting better at this whole YouTube thing. But having sat down and reflected, I enjoy having these debates and sort of understanding other people's perspective, but also sharing what I've read from books. The people who have spent all this time writing these books from their own life experiences. And I enjoy sharing that with other people, which is the primary reason I'm starting this YouTube channel and creating these YouTube videos. The money is a big part of it, don't get me wrong, but it's not the only reason. And I think the bigger reason is sharing these ideas and these concepts, and it's what I enjoy doing with my time. And I've only been able to get to that by asking myself why I'm starting this side hustle. And to follow on by asking yourself, if your side hustle does succeed, what will you do with your life? What will you do with your time? Because that will give you a lot of clarity on whether starting a side hustle is the right move. So if you have enjoyed this video and you've gained some insight and value from it, you'll enjoy this video here where I go into which side hustle is best to start given your specific skill set. So I'll catch you in the next video. Please like and subscribe.